Hello, how you guys doing? I like my rocking chair. I found this outside in the garbage. It makes a nice computer chair. Anyway, I want to go over this prophecy of Revelations 12 and how it was fulfilled and how I, William Henry Ryland, fit into the prophecy, only to prove that I have a part to play in instructing the earth. You know, it's for our own benefit. It's not like I chose this. It was chosen for me, and it's been written about in the scriptures. It's just prophecy. It's just facts. So we know that on September 23rd, first of all, let's go over the prophecy, right? Revelations 12. It says, there was a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet and 12 stars above her head. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. Now, I wish I was better at the video sharing, because then I could show you the video. I posted the picture for this video on the front, but you can look up other videos and see that the constellation Virgo, a woman in the heavens. First of all, for those who doubt that the sign was in a constellation, in the very beginning, in Genesis, it says that the sun, the moon, and stars are created for signs and wonders. Let me see if I could find the exact verse. As on the earth, the two great lights to rule the day and set them expanse. Good. Genesis 1:14, and Elohim said, let the lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times, for days and years. Appointed times. Well, there's 7 appointed times in Leviticus 23. Those are Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost, and then you have your fall feasts, which are Feast of Trumpets, that's 5. Feast of Trumpets, Atonement, and Tabernacles or Sukkot. They have, all of them have many names. Anyway, you know that Messiah, or the one they call Jesus, which really we call him Yahusha or Immanuel, I'm man, you are El. He fulfilled, he died exactly on Passover to fulfill Passover, and he was the unleavened bread. He broke his body apart and became spirit, which then his spirit he was able to give to many. That's why, the apostles, the 12 apostles all received the spirit. Remember, he had the feeding of the 5,000. He broke the bread that represented his body and he passed it out to his 12. And they fed the 5,000, and they had 12 baskets left over. That's the leftover information. The 12 were the eyewitnesses who saw everything that happened, and they recorded their accounts. 12 names written on the foundations of the New Jerusalem. Revelations 21:14. There's only 12 names. Okay? Now, also this scripture, combine that with the first church. We know that there was, I wish this video was clear. There were 5,000. They said they numbered roughly 5,000, the church in Acts. That represents the same thing, because it was the apostles, the 12, who began the church in Acts, and they were numbered 5,000. That was the feeding of the 5,000. Messiah died and broke his body. The information was given to the 12 anointed, and then they passed out the information to the original 5,000, which were the first fruits. And then the leftover information is the words that we still have today. Let me see if I can turn this camera off. Sorry about that. That's better, a little bit. Okay, so we're going over the Revelations 12 sign, right? I was just sharing with you how Messiah fulfilled these first 4. It was Passover, and he was the unleavened bread. Unleavened bread represents the truth and the way, the truth, and the life. He was the 8th spirit of truth. Another helper. Revelations 1:4 says there are 7 spirits of God before the throne. or we could say Yahuwah, or 9, his name is, Yahuwah, Yahuwah, Father, you understand. Yah means Father, you means you, and Ah means to understand. You see, we are in the days of no Ah. There is no understanding. The Messiah, the message I understand, and the message I share, so then we can all have understanding. And the understanding will defeat the lies. The truth will set us free. Okay. So there were 7 spirits, and they're listed in Isaiah 11, right? It was the spirit of the fear of the Lord brings forth what? Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, the spirit of wisdom, and it's wise to take counsel from the spirit of counsel, and counsel gives us understanding, spirit of understanding, and the spirit of knowledge, and knowledge is power, which is the spirit of might, and mighty in works of righteousness, or right, we are right, which is the 7th. And then it is written, and I will give you another helper, the spirit of truth, the hidden truth, to be with you forever. And this is in one of my other videos. I think it was Who is God? I really wanted to get to the sign of Revelations 12. And I just wanted to share with you how Messiah, the 8th, he was a spirit, broke himself into the spirit of truth and divided to the 12, who then passed it out. And the information is in here, and how the unleavened bread, that feast that he fulfilled, unleavened bread is flat. When you add leavening, it gets all fluffy with air. The teachings are full of air. His teaching was just raw truth. It has the same amount of substance as a whole loaf, but in a compressed form. So break this information apart, and it's still all true. We can, eat the whole thing. Anyway, unleavened bread, and then it was first fruits, and that was the first church, and Pentecost, when they received the Spirit. So all those were fulfilled for. So the next one in line would then be the fall feasts, and that's what I'm going to get to here. Revelations 12. We talked about how the sun, moon, and stars were for signs and wonders. Okay, so it's written here in Revelations 12. It says, there was a great sign in the heavens above us. There was a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and 12 stars above her head, and being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. On September 23rd, 2017, the constellation Virgo. Now, I learned of the sign shortly before it happened, maybe a month before it happened. I've been feeding a family in Gambia, Africa, for maybe 2 years, trying to build them a farm, and trying to help those less fortunate. And I was learning of this sign, and then I was considering going over to Gambia to see the sign. Because here's what I learned about it. That the constellation Virgo, September 23rd, which just so happens to be Tishrei, the Hebrew month of Tishri, the first day of Tishrei, which is the 5th appointment, which is the next one to be fulfilled, that the sign was to appear on this day, exactly on the 5th appointment, that Virgo would be clothed with the sun, meaning you couldn't see her because it was during the day. Constellations you could only see at night. So she was clothed with the sun, but we knew it was going to happen because we could follow these things on programs like Stellarium. We're able to predict, blood moons and eclipses and things like this. And we were following, or I was following the star. I was noticing this bright star for some time. So I was following the sign without realizing it for some time. All right, so it continues then, and it says that the moon was under her feet, and she had 12 stars above her head. So this all happened September 23rd. She had the moon under her feet and 12 stars above her head. And what makes this unique is usually she only has 9 stars above her head in the constellation Leo, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. But on this day, she had 3 planets or wandering stars lined up in a straight line, pointing to her womb, and lined up in a straight line with Leo to give her a crown of 12 stars. And those 3 planets represent the 3 wise men who followed the star, the 3 magi who followed the star of Messiah, who was coming out of her womb. Was what was in her womb for exactly 9 months was the king planet Jupiter. And she gave birth on this day. It came out of her womb. So Jupiter represents Messiah. You know, if you look up who is Jupiter, you'll see that it was the god of the sky. It's like the king of the gods, the king planet. You know, there's many different religions and things, all with their god, but their gods really represent the same thing when we really dig in and look up the information of who is this or what is this. We shouldn't reject things just because we weren't raised to believe them in the way that, you know, others do. We have different names, we have different languages. That doesn't mean that, you know, what we believe is the only right way. Maybe everything's connected. Maybe everything has its own expression, its own way of telling the same story. For example, you know, it is written that the word became flesh and dwelt among us. The words, the script, became a person, which is what your actors do on movies. They read a script and they become the words. So they are messiahs of their script. It's the same thing with Greek mythology. The personifications. You know, Zeus, the god, with the lightning bolt would represent the electromagnetic L. And Hercules, who is half man, half God, would represent Emmanuel, man with God and man. It's the same thing. So we were on this sign, and this is what I want to talk about. So we were following this star, and we knew it was going to happen. And Jupiter, the king planet, came out of her womb. Was also Joseph's dream. Remember, Joseph he had this dream where it said the sun, the moon, and the stars came and bowed down to him. Well, on this day, we had the sun, the moon, and the stars there witnessing the birth. So it's really, the scriptures is a riddle. There's information in between the lines. We know that Messiah spoke in parables and codes. So it's a matter of deciphering the cipher. Maybe L.U. ciphered, and the one who deciphers unlocks the code is the one with the keys. So I'm unlocking the door of information for you. That's my job. And I'm providing you with the concepts and information. Some of my other videos would provide you with information, how we can fix our problems. The mess, I understand. I understand the mess. I get it. So I'm trying to reveal to you the information. And that's exactly why all of this is supposed to point to me. I thought that people would find me, but I didn't even know who I was. I had to learn. I just so happened to be in Gambia, Africa during the time of the sign. I wasn't sure if I would go or not because at the time I had been on, you know, probation for what was I on probation for? Missing appointments or something. It was just, it's been dumb stuff my whole life. Really, I've been, you know, harassed, and I really haven't committed crimes. Really, people just didn't know me. They don't know me, so they just assume things about me and receive wrong information. And anyway, so I wasn't sure if I should go or not. But then I was helping a family over there, and I thought this was going to be the end of the world anyway. So I'll probably never return from this. So what does it matter? What can they do to me anyway? And I still wasn't sure. So I looked up on my phone how much a plane ticket would cost. On September 7th, I remember looking for a ticket to Gambia, Africa from New York, and it costed me $777.77. So I was like, well, that's a sign. I'm going. Besides that, and there's going to be a sign in the heavens. What more information do I need? So I quickly was acquiring my visa. I only had 7 days. My flight was leaving on September 14th. So I went over to go see this sign. It just so happens that I learned all these things later, how Tishrei, the 7th Hebrew month, is the second new year, also fits with my name, William H. Ryland, William Tishrei Land. which divided as will, I am, tis, H, Ryland. The fourth. The fourth. Do you mean the fourth as in Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph? The fourth, Jupiter. The fourth, four. And I'm learning other things like the numbers with my name. I learned these things later. William, first of all, the way I do my numbers, I don't know how they do theirs, but A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D, A, B, C, D, 4, and so on up to 9, and then we start over again, 1 through 9, because there's only 9 numbers. 1 is alpha, 9 is omega. So when I, put the numbers under the letters, William, and then I reduce it, it equals 7. Henry is 7. Ryland is 9. And I'm the fourth. So that's 7794. And then I look up in the Strong's Concordance, and I discover that means the head of cattle, which could also represent the bull, which could be why the Hindus have holy cows. Maybe that's why Nimrod, the son of Noah, was represented as a bull. And he was also called the god of the sun. And I'll explain to you what the sun is. I've explained it in my other videos is, really it's the Ark of the Covenant energy. It's the power of the sun that can solve all our problems with the pollution. But anyway, we're trying to do this sign, right? I'm trying to explain this to you. So Gambia, Africa. It wasn't until later on that I realized that Gambia, Africa kind of looks like a vagina inside of Senegal. It has the river running right through it. So I was thinking, as above, so below, 2 up, 2 down, heaven as on earth, in heaven as on earth. What happens in the sky reflects what is happening on the earth. So maybe I was the star. The woman gave birth. What was the birth? Jupiter. And what is Jupiter? Energy or understanding. God's spirit. He puts a spirit in man. I just so happened to have left Gambia exactly on October 4th that year in 2017, which just so happened to be the beginning of the 7th appointment, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, which is when Israel comes out of Egypt and they live in tabernacles. I literally left Egypt on the Feast of Tabernacles. If Africa represents Egypt, and if Hosea 11:1 says, I have called my son out of Egypt, then maybe I am the son of El. The Feast of Tabernacles is when they stay in tents. Well, I just so happened to have no place to live because I had given everything to the children in Africa to try to give them a better life. And because that's what Scripture says to do, that's what Messiah said to do to the rich man, that's what he said. The guy said, I followed all your commands from a young child. What else can I do? And he said, sell all that you have and give it to the poor, and then come follow me, and you will receive everlasting life. Well, I figured, if the world is ending, because if this sign of Revelation 12 is the return, I think I'm going to be raptured up to heaven or something. So I figured, what's the point of having any money? I don't want to leave anything behind. So I gave it all away. I just had just enough money to return to the USA. Because I do receive a little bit of money every month from a wrongful death of my father and brother, which happened way back in 2000, the year 2000, I believe, October 4th, 2000. So, yeah, so that was even an anniversary. All the numbers and everything, it's crazy. So I received my monthly income was just enough to get a ticket to come home, but I really didn't have much left over for a place to stay. So I stayed on people's couches, which then fulfilled tabernacles because I stayed in tents. Basically, I was bouncing around for the duration of the feast. And then a woman offered me a place to stay, which was nice of her. Of course, the church and my family were pointing fingers saying, you can't be living with a woman if you're not married. And, I could just bring up things like Jose was asked to marry, I'm not calling her names. I'm just saying, even Jose was asked to marry a whore, if that's what they were trying to say, that she's a whore. And I said, even Elijah and Elisha stayed with the woman. So this is what was provided for me. This is part of the story. These are the facts, and this is what happened. So I'm expressing these things to you to try to get the world's attention, because we have a problem. If you haven't noticed, we have the coronavirus. We have a problem with global warming and pollution, sickness and death. People are dying, and not only that, our environment is destroyed. And really, it's for lack of knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. I was just posting on this on Facebook, and I want to make this video to add to it. And this all began, of course, by our ignorance and disobedience. I was learning about the commands. I didn't always know the truth. I was also confused with the world, doing the things of the world, till I came out of Babylon and began to study, and then began to ask for understanding and ask for truth. And, El answers in time. I believe that a lot of those times is when I'm sleeping, or maybe it's on the Sabbath, the day of rest. Maybe it's on that day when we're resting, where he plugs the umbilical cord, plugs us into the computer of information. Sometimes I'm not sure where all the information comes from. Does it come from the food that I'm eating because I'm eating healthy food? Well, it really just comes from his spirit. Because really, we are the temple. The temple's between the temples. The body is a courtyard. Our body has 7 chakra. The 7th is the most high, the crown. The 6th is, here inside the eye, the 3rd eye. We opens the eye to understanding. And the 7th is, I've explained this in another video, the 3-in-1. Should I go over it again? I just mentioned that there were 8 spirits. We have 7 chakra. Right? There's 7 spirits of God. This is represented in the Star of David that has 6 points around the center 7th. But if you look at the star closely, you'll see there's a box in the middle of the star, with the corner front and center. Sorry to go over this again. Here we go. So behind this front and center corner, there's the 8th, which is the hidden truth, right? But a box has 8 corners, and God's name 9 was written on the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant was also a box, and a box has 8 corners. So there is 9 spirits of God. Real air 7th chakra represents 3-in-1 then. It's the center. Here's your 6th chakra around the 7th candle. The center candle in the lampstand was higher than the others. Look at the Hebrew, the candles. There's 7 and there's 9 candles. It represents the same thing, that the center candle represents 3-in-1. So really you can do it in one lampstand if you have your 6 one way, and then you have 1 in front and 1 behind the center. That would represent the 3-in-1, which is righteousness, hidden truth, and the center is eternal life. It's El. It was an understanding. I mean, really, it's everything together. It's everything. because that's what God is. He's all these things. That's the description. So I've explained some of our problem on the other video, and I've shared with you how we can fix these problems. If you help me share this information, I can give you the bread and you can take it and break it, or I can break it for you, break up the information, and you can take it and share it. If you want to edit it, then you may do that. But it's up to us to share the information, because we need awareness first. We need to realize we have a problem. Otherwise, we can't fix the problem. I was looking up carbon monoxide poisoning, and one of the symptoms is confusion. So if we become so sick that we become confused, and so confused that we don't think that we're sick, is there any hope? Well, if you're receiving this information, then there's hope. If we can share the information and we can bring awareness to the world at some point has to say that we don't have everything figured out, and maybe we should try another way. And that's difficult for the leaders to say, or for anyone to say that maybe we're not right. I'm not trying to point fingers and say, to like belittle people. I'm just trying to say, for life, I want us to all be blessed. When you're blessed, I'm going to be blessed. When our environment heals, I'm going to heal too. Really, we could all live out our dreams. We could be free. The truth will set us free. And I'm trying to give you free energy. Do with it whatever you want to do, because even if we have to charge for it, whatever, I don't care. At least it's clean and our environment will begin to heal. So in that way, we're still all benefiting. Well, you can confirm my stories, my whereabouts. Man, I had a lot of these things on my old Facebook. I don't know if it's possible to bring that back up. I was having a issue with security and things, and maybe some of the information I was sharing a lot of information about the pharmaceutical monopoly and things about secret societies, and so there was people after me, which is likely the rest of what's written there in Revelations 12, where it says the dragon waited before the child to consume it. Revelations 12. And another sign was seen in the heavens, a great and fiery red dragon, the Illuminati, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. And his tail draws a third of the stars of the heaven and throws them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she bore a male child who was to shepherd all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught away to Elohim and his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared for her to be nourished there 1,260 days. Well, 1,260 days from September 23rd, 2017 is March 6th, 2021, which is also 21 days from Passover that year, the coming year. 21s. Revelations 12 is an inverted 21, and it represents Revelations 21 because the child is going to bring the kingdom of heaven to earth that is spoken about in Revelations 21. So the 12s and the 21s go together. Just as I believe it's possible that some of these, that the Mayan calendar, which predicted the end of the world to be in 2012, maybe is inverted. Maybe it's 2021. And maybe these movies that we watched that were 2012, maybe it's really 2021. And it's inverted. And maybe some of these other numbers, March 6th, 2021 I believe, is the Hebrew 12th month of Adar, which is also the 21st day of the 12th month, 12/21. And it also just so happens to be the 7th, the 7/7s. It's the year of Jubilee. Every 7 years they have a Sabbath of rest, but after 7 Sabbaths is the year of Jubilee, the releasing of debts, giving the earth a rest. You're under arrest, earth. You're all arrested. So according to these numbers, it would seem that something will happen soon. But I'm not just going to sit around and wait for things to happen, because it was by the actions that the prophecies were fulfilled. I went to Gambia to follow the prophecy and fulfill the prophecy. So maybe it's learning about them and expressing that these days are coming and sharing the information now, and maybe the information will come out exactly at this time, which then maybe it will be a time of rest. You know, that's the thing about prophecy. You know, the people even missed Messiah the first time he came, because they had made up in their minds what the prophecy was going to be before it happened. So we have to be careful when we're deciding what the representations mean. When the pieces fit, or when the shoe fits, when it really makes sense, yeah, I would hold on to it, but still leave your hand open to other possibilities. We should not close our hand until it's complete. Then we can put it in our pocket. So throughout my studies now, I believe that I play an important part in this. And it's not, and it just so happens to be a coincidence that then I drew the designs for the Ark of the Covenant, and I didn't realize what they were when I was drawing them. The pieces came to me later, the representations. So that proves to me as well that what I drew is valid. And I've been going over these things for 2 years in my mind, making amendments and small changes, and thinking about how we can use this idea in so many ways. Really, you can picture new worlds. I know we can do it. So I believe that's what I have to offer to the world, is energy, understanding, and we'll also have some judgment. We'll balance everything out. You know, we can all enter into the kingdom of heaven. We could just pay our dues. You know, there's some people who knowingly do evil, and there's a lot of people who were just ignorant and we don't know better. So there's different kinds of sin. So those who, you know, even some of those who knowingly are doing like the population control, they still say the end justifies the means. And they believe that they're helping the earth. They just so happen to benefit from it. But they believe that, you know, there's too much population, which in a sense is somewhat true, because really it's not the amount of people, though. It's the amount of lack of knowledge and ignorance. It's the amount of pollution that comes from the people. So, you know, some of these things will have to be weighed in the scale. Actually, everything's going to have to be weighed in the scale. And we'll decide what their intentions were. For example, I can prove to you that Bill Gates, that he knows what he's doing. Someone who owns 500,000 shares in a company called Monsanto, which when unscrambled, it spells something like Satan's MO. And MO could stand for mode of operation. GMO company, a former chemical weapons company, Monsanto, which genetically modifies our foods and adds chemicals. So someone like Bill Gates, if he owns 500,000 shares of Monsanto, a GMO company, but yet he eats organic foods. Why would you invest in a product that you don't eat, that you don't believe in, unless you know that the product is not good? So you know that you're murdering people. Also, I learned that these companies like Monsanto, according to my study, they serve organic foods in their cafeterias. Well, that's just all interesting to me, why you would make GMO foods, but yet you eat organic. If organic is good for your employees to eat, isn't organic good for all the people? You see what I'm saying? How we can make judgments just based on a couple of facts to prove that these people who are of the congregation of Satan are trying to murder us. And you can read about some of these things in William Cooper, Milton William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse. William Cooper, a former intelligence officer in the Navy and the Air Force, when he learned some of these truths, he left, and then he compiled the information and offered it to the people, and eventually they did murder him for this information. I believe in the year 2004. Was it 2000, 2004? I forget. I didn't learn about him until 2016. And I didn't learn about this information, that there was a conspiracy really to destroy America. Literally. I have the book. Maybe I'll read that to you in another video. Okay, you know what? I don't want to make this video too long. So there's the information to validate that the information that I have is important, and maybe we should be listening. So do your investigation, hire your investigators, resurrect my Facebook, my old one, and the information, dig into my family lineage, which I learned these things too. My grandmother just so happened to be one of those who studies the lineage. And I asked her for some information. I only have the basics, but the basics is enough to learn that my forefather's name was, one of them was Adam Ruland. And then I did my own investigation to learn that Ru, R-E-U, was Abraham's forefather. Facts of life of Ruland family. Luxembourg, Germany, France area. There's a castle, Ruland. The castle is in Ruland, Belgium. Even today, remnants of the castle rule the village. The family Ruland was an influential family of knights with connection to Johannes de Roulant. At the beginning of the 14th century, the family of knights was extinguished with Arnold von Ruland. Regarding the meaning of your name, Ruland is probably the road land, the land that was cleared and cultivated. Your name, Ryland, is the name of our village, Ruland. Ryland is the pronunciation according to the local dialect. The name of the village, Ruland, Belgium, but the owners of this name are not directly connected with the family of knights who used to live in the castle, Ruland. One of your ancestors came from today's village where he was most likely called after the place of his origin. There are several bearers of the name Ruland in history who could well be one of your relatives. Hospice von Rulands was a caretaker of the castle. Bartholomew Rulands was Dechant of Kleiberg near Bitburg and pastor of Pronsfield. He was buried 22nd of July, 1604 in the Catholic Church in Pronsfield. He had a clover leaf as a coat of arms. Clover leaf. Michael Rulands, 1600 to 1632, and Joanne Ruland, 1640 to 1656, were both mayors in Rulands. Anyway, I'll keep reading. The following is a paper also sent by Gilbert John Ryland. The castle of Ruland is one of the most beautiful and magnificent ruins of the Ardennes. The present ruins are but a small part of the earlier castle. There, where the castle ruins remain, the Romans had built a permanent castle. The Franks made it into a royal castle. The still standing walls were once part of the home of the ruler. Carl M. Magny, I don't know how to pronounce all the names, lived for a time at the castle of Ruland. A count, who was also a district count, lived permanently in the castle. After the death of Charlie, the castle, its surroundings, became the property of the counts. The lords and counts of Ruland, a valiant family, were permanent residents of the castle. They participated in many crusades and earned immortal fame and praise everywhere. The countryside all around was under their domain. The Rulands were the followers of the emperor and responsible only to him. A lord, Werner von Ruland, who lived in 1193, was a friend of Emperor Frederick Barbarossa. Another lord, Dietrich von Ruland, took part in the Third Crusade. Because of his bravery, he acquired the name the Lion. He still lives on in stories and songs. The last member of this renowned family, Arnold von Ruland, died about 1309. He did not have any children, and the counts of Plankenheim inherited the castle and lands Ruland. Since that time, the lords of Ruland have always been the hereditary controllers of these lands and the Dutch of Luxembourg. People still talk about the key which opens the Ruland castle and gates to the city of Luxembourg. In 1689, at the time when the territory belonged to Spain, the French, under King Lodewijk what number is that? XIV. Is that 10 and 4? Is that 14? Burned and captured Castle Ruland. In 1714, they were forced to give the land to Australia. In 1763, Ruland was returned to Luxembourg and ruled. Anyway, we don't have to read all this, right? I learned also in the lineage, people named like Matthias, and John, and Adam, Ruland, a lot of Johns and Adams, and James, more Johns and Adams. So there's a lot of information here that we don't have to go all over, but then I did my study and I learned that Ru was Abraham's forefather. So I was thinking about this, the sign of the son of Adam. Well, we're all sons of Adam. Adam really represents all men, and Eve represents all women. So it could be the son of Adam in this way, yeah, meaning a man. Son of Adam Rulands, could say that too. We could also say that before Abraham was I am, because Ru was before Abraham, and Ru was my forefather's name. And I also left our land of America, Babylon, as Abraham did, and traveled over to Africa with my very few belongings, a couple bags, because I'd pretty much given everything away. So I came out of Babylon, and really I lived the story of Abraham. Also followed the star. So I learned some of these things later, and it's very humbling, or I feel very blessed, but it's also a huge responsibility and task. If it's my responsibility then to resurrect the earth and do that through information and do that through, I'm not the type of person to do public speaking. I always kind of like to play in the background, behind the scenes. I guess I'd be like the guy behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz, So it really brings me a little bit out of my comfort zone. I really like to just allow people to handle their business and direct and do their directing and everything. And I just want to share the information with you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share with you whatever information I have. So it's up to you then to listen, okay? And to share it with others, please. Thank you. That's all I have for now. I'm William Henry Ryland IV. And this is a call to turn away from our destructive pollutions. I have solutions. Park Energy Enterprises. I am Iron Man.